Would you say that this news or this announcement is an epic announcement? Wordplay, I love it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Citizens of Gaming Podcast. I'm Tim.
This is Josh.
I'm Brenden.
All right, so tonight's episode is going to be about studios that we'd like to see acquire other studios, ones that maybe potentially could happen, ones that are just more like a pipe dream, a wish for us. We'll kind of get into that a little bit here, more here in a little bit. But of course, we're going to start off with some news.
When it comes to news, Witcher, guys. Witcher. Me and Brenden talked about this in the past, actually. But today, or when was it?
March 21st.
March 21st.
March 21st. CD Projekt Red came out and announced that they are working on a brand new Witcher game. And they partnered up with Unreal Engine 5 for this foreseeable future, I believe, which was also announced within this announcement of the, next Witcher installment, which I'm stoked. I'm so stoked.
Yeah, it's it's a pretty big news drop, despite the fact that it's not like it's coming out anytime soon. If we're lucky, this game is going to be years away, probably. But it's still cool news. Something that people have been excited for, especially, or hoping for, especially after Witcher 3.
Yeah, because what is it? They said that the foreseeable future for whatever games they create will be done on the Unreal Engine 5, and all Cyberpunk content will stay on their what's that engine that they're currently running?
Well, that's the thing, is because they had their own proprietary engine that they made
Yes.
for The Witcher and Cyberpunk, which is Red Engine, and now they are going to stop using that for this next Witcher installment, and they're going to work inside what is now Unreal Engine 5.
And they also stated, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. They also stated that they were going to also be aiding and abetting, I guess is the way I like to call it, with any future content that Epic wants to do too. I guess as a part of the partnership that they're kind of give their knowledge and know-how.
Well, that's like they're going to, Epic's going to support them via the Unreal Engine, and then they're also going to give their take on the Unreal Engine to help Epic,
Yes,
make the
that's
engine,
what you said. Yep.
make the engine better, give their thoughts on it and things that they could do to improve it, so on and so forth. But they also confirmed, people were worried during this announcement, does that mean that the next Witcher game would be exclusive to like the Epic Game Store on PC? But they already confirmed that's not true. Because Epic also got some licensing deals, and they said, like, just the way it phrased, it sounded like they were like going to be publishing it, and it kind of seemed like it might be, but they've already announced that's not the case. It'll come to all platforms that they can, run it on. Again, still years away, but it's still a cool announcement. It's just a teaser poster right now that's literally just like the Witcher logo.
So
yeah.
So would you would you say that this news or this announcement is an epic announcement? Wordplay, I love it.
They did in that statement, by the way, say saga. So does that imply potential, like a like how they did Witcher 1, 2, and 3, they would do another 3? Or
if anything, I would interpret that as just the next game inside of the Witcher franchise.
Okay.
Maybe they do. Maybe they are planning another, few installments. I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't interpret that as directly as like they have a perfect, setup for another 3 games or whatever. I think they're just incorporating, this and the prior three as like all of the Witcher game saga. So, and then moving past that, lot of new TV shows got announced with video game tie-ins. Tekken is getting an animated series on Netflix. Nier Automata is also supposed to get an anime. Uh, didn't say where, who was making it. Um, then God of War is supposedly getting a live action TV show on Amazon. And A Plague's Tale is also supposed to be getting its own TV show.
That Plague's Tale would make a good one, I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, again, these are all still very early stages. Some stuff might come up, they might not ever happen. Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, which was remaster of the first two Advance Wars games from like the Game Boy Advance days, has been delayed indefinitely because of the unfortunate war in Ukraine. Nintendo doesn't feel like it's a appropriate time to release a game about war, even though Advance Wars is, I mean, I don't want to say like cutesy and lighthearted, but it's definitely not like a Call of Duty or something.
Not like No Russian and Call of Duty Modern
Yeah,
Warfare.
it's a tactical game, and it's cartoony, and it's got like some cel shaded graphics and stuff, but they still felt it was a bit gross of them to release a game like that right now. So that's been delayed indefinitely. Also, Gotham Knights got a confirmed release date for this year, for October 25th. Still haven't heard anything about Suicide Squad being delayed, if that was confirmed or not, but we did get, on the other side of that, yeah, we got a confirmed release date for Gotham Knights as of right now.
In simulator news, SCS, the developers for American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator 2, are going to Truck World in April of 2022 to do some sound recording of different trucks to bring more realistic sounds into the game. And Farming Simulator is releasing its first DLC in March of 22, so this month. It's a tractor pack, if I remember correctly.
That'd be cool. What's funny is the more we do our episodes here, I'm kind of starting to enjoy here a little bit about these simulators. I mean, even though I don't play them, but
Forspoken, a game that we talked about during our games to look forward to, games coming in 2022, got delayed from May to October, May 25th to October 11th to be specific. They just wanted to work on it some more, probably do some more bug fixing, because since it's a shorter delay comparatively, 5 months is not terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, they just said they wanted to work on it more, touch some things up, and make it the best it can be when it releases. So yeah, a bit unfortunate, but it's still coming out this year. I mean, there's already plenty to play, and there's going to be more coming. So I'm not too broken up about it. But yeah, we'll see if the time was worth it when it comes out in October.
When it comes to news, is Hogwarts Legacy had a big 15-minute gameplay reveal.
Yeah,
I can tell you what, my entire life I've been groomed for this game. I'm ready.
Yeah, PlayStation got to do a whole state of play for it, which again showed off about 15 minutes of actual game. Because we hadn't seen jack shit until this point. Like we'd seen literally nothing. Like
hearsay, they say whatever.
Well, at one point, it was rumored that it was going to get delayed. So now to come to this far, that not only has it officially been confirmed for holiday of 2022, but now they have actual gameplay footage of it too.
Even I guess to the rumors of it getting delayed, I mean, what they showed in that 15-minute trailer speaks volumes for that game's size.
I mean, we'll see. I think we'll probably see more again in like the weeks and months to come as we get closer to release.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they showed off a lot. They showed off the combat. They showed, a fair amount of the environments that you're going to visit. What you're going to be doing a fair amount of the time. There's still a fair amount of stuff that I have questions on, but
yeah,
I will say I'm a lot more positive on the game now that I've actually seen it. Now that I know that it's a thing that exists instead of just vaporware. But yeah, like it does look like a positive thing, and definitely like something Harry Potter fans, Potterverse fans can sink their teeth into. GTA 5 finally released its, I guess next gen update since we already had an next gen update once, like 8 years ago.
Hey, just to say, I'm not impressed with it.
Elden Ring has sold 12 million copies.
12 million copies
and well deserved. Well
month.
deserved.
In a month.
It is so damn good.
Well, just for comparison's sake, Dark Souls 3 sold 10 million units after, what was the stat? It was like after like 3 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
So Elden Ring has now sold 12 million units in the span of about a month. Month and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is far and away From Software's biggest release. And even their publisher, Namco Bandai, was only expecting it to do about 3 to 4, this early.
Yeah.
So it's blown expectations out of the water, high and dry, for that type of game, and for From Software. And again, 12 million units. There are entire series of games that have not hit 12 million units, and Elden Ring does it off the rip in a month. It's a staggering achievement for them, and it's great. It really is. And then to kind of sashay into our overall topic for this episode, Netflix bought a mobile game developer called Next Games. Bought them for about $65 million.
Oh.
Netflix has been trying to push it into the gaming space and include it in their normal subscription. You could just play games on your with your TV remote in your Netflix app, wherever you do that. So they bought this developer. I think it's the second one they bought. They bought another one a little while ago. But they're mostly smaller developers, mostly mobile game stuff. And this group helped them make Stranger Things mobile game that came out a couple of years ago. And then also just announced today on the 21st, as of this recording, as PlayStation acquired Haven Studios, which is new studio. I think it only got opened last year, headed by Jade Raymond. She's a studio vet, or a game industry vet, I should say. She ran EA Motive. She worked at Ubisoft for a long time. Was one of the driving forces behind Assassin's Creed for a number of years. And then, so they just... What's weird is they haven't even developed a game or anything yet. But, they were working on something. I guess Sony liked it enough that they bought them. So now they're going to have, whatever that mystery game is that they're working on. That's really it we got for the news.
And then kind of diving right into today's episode, like we said, we're going to talk about acquisitions that we would like to see. Maybe we'll throw in some that are potential. One that I'm going to start off with is a pipe dream, a wish, something I think that would benefit both companies. But I do want to start off by saying anything we talk about today, there's no evidence, there's no facts to it. This is purely our opinions. I don't want people running off saying oh, Tim, Josh, and Brenden said that so-and-so is buying so-and-so. No, we're just...
Take everything we say with a grain of salt. Yep. It's topic, it's a topic that's even going around for anybody anywhere. It's just, pipe dreams, people, just...
it's all just a discussion and for fun. Speculation. Yeah. We will be talking, I'm sure we'll talk about some of the actual acquisitions that have happened recently. But, a lot of stuff that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it will happen. We don't know. With Microsoft buying Activision, I feel like anything's on the friggin' table at this point.
There's always breadcrumbs, and people like to pick them up and eat them, such as, the leaks and the what ifs out there.
Yeah, this is definitely more of a fun discussion.
Yes.
Not anything to be taken as fact.
Yep. And so diving right into it, I actually have a pipe dream that I would love to see. This would be the epitome for me. This would be the top acquisition in my book. Would be Playground Game, which they make game. I thought that was pretty interesting that's on their website. We make games. I thought that the name of the studio was obvious enough.
You never know.
But no, I would love to see Playground Games acquire SCS. Like I mentioned earlier, they make Euro Truck Simulator and American Truck Simulator. The reason I would like to do this is actually for quite a few reasons. Playground Games has been making Forza Horizon, so they know how to make driving games, driving simulators, if you will. So I think that they could really help SCS and continuing building these two games by giving them, resources, giving them advice, giving them help with expanding on these games. They know how to make scenery. They know how to make cities. So I think,
not to interrupt you. Remember,
yeah,
with the Playground games, what they're kind of known for is they have that tech where they like scan the actual environment of wherever they're setting locations to bring it into the video game.
yeah,
Could you imagine if they did that for truck simulators?
it'd be a little bit more difficult because it's all built to scale and it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. But they could
Oh,
easily
okay.
scan, a section of highway, let's say I-40, and then they could just kind of cut it down to fit the scale. But they could
Yeah.
have some of like the more memorable or more notable chunks of that highway in the game.
Yeah, well, because I mean, me and you, Brenden included, have thoroughly played car games. Even more notably, their most recent Forza Horizon 5,
Right.
and it's effing insane.
Yeah.
And if, like you said, if they could acquire a truck simulator, which truck simulator, by the way, I don't know much, but I've seen countless streamers out there who have tens of thousands of viewers, and it's a thing. So it's for sure
It's
like
a
a
niche,
popular thing.
but it's very popular in the simulator
Yeah.
world.
So
And so if they did acquire them, and I understand that like they have Forza Horizon that they're working on right now, and then they have Fable 4, whatever it's going to be, they're working on that as well. So maybe right now wouldn't be the perfect time to buy, but maybe after those come out, they could donate some resources to SCS to kind of help them. It's American Truck Simulator. So they're trying to make a map to scale of the United States. And then I think they've also talked about adding in Mexico and Canada. They're a smaller team, but if they had outside help from Playground, who's kind of versed in this type of game genre, I think it would boost that company, and of course, it's going to bring a new dynamic to Playground games. In my opinion, I think that it'd be a win-win for either side.
it is. It's very. In my opinion, it goes along with a lot of our other conversations we've ever had about underrated gems out there. I mean, when back in the day when I first kind of experienced being a simulator, like back, when you could get like the flight, the actual flight stick
Yep.
controller, or even the drive, the steering wheel. Like I feel like that's a very almost underrated gem to like the gaming verse, right? Is that kind of like grounded experience, like making it almost as real as
Oh,
possible.
there's people that
I
have whole
I would I
ass.
would like to see more of that.
There are people that have whole ass truck setups in their house. Like they've literally like have a dashboard. They have a sleeper, a bunk. They have like they put sheet metal together to make it look like a truck. They have the
That's so
steering wheel.
amazing.
They have the shifter. They have there's companies that make specific like I don't know what they're called, but like they're these. It's almost like a gamepad where like you can map buttons to it. They have those, but they have it like for trailer brakes, for the air brakes for the truck, for the different switches inside the trucks. For the airbags, the lights,
Yeah.
the air compressor, stuff like that. So it's a small community, but it is like a very dedicated and loyal community that like companies are making stuff for this game for people to play.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I've even seen some. I've actually. I mean, I've followed some streamers who do truck sims,
Yep.
and even there are some pretty amazingly decent truck sim mods for GTA Online. Ironically, that work well with, like you were saying, was with that look. Because I've seen in the stream that they have all those buttons and stuff to simulate the actual truck. And
Right.
I've seen people doing it in GTA Online, which is crazy,
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, yeah, it's a whole thing that to help get you more immersed in the game. Like you're allowed to put in all that extra. I mean, it takes a lot of money to do some of that stuff. Like those
Oh yeah.
steering wheel controllers and pedal controllers and stuff are not cheap.
No,
Um,
not by any
which
means.
is
Yeah.
why, yeah, which is why a lot of people don't use them anymore. I mean, I agree. There's definitely a market. I mean, Playground Games is owned by Microsoft, so like it would have to run up all the way up the chain for that to happen. But like, I don't think it's I don't think it's an unsensible decision because, I mean, comparatively, I think that's got to be a relatively cheap acquisition for them, especially if it's something they could really bring one stuff that they could then put on like their PC Game Pass to add more games to that. I mean, again, if they could also transfer a lot of that stuff over to console, and again, having Xbox, Microsoft as a partner for that would be make that a lot easier. And then, in theory, expand those games to a whole new audience who, never thought about it or never touched it.
Yeah, if they were able to port that over, which they have no plans right now whatsoever to port it over to consoles, but if they were to get backing or help from a studio like Playground Games, that might become something that could come into fruition. That is something that could become possible. And that would only expand and open up their market.
It's totally not out of the realm of possibility.
No, it's more of a pipe dream. Like,
I mean, look at Activision. Like, that was like no one ever that was the last thing anybody would have ever thought would have happened. The Xbox and Activision. So like this truck simulator and Playground Games is totally. I could see it happening.
Well, again, I mean, it's a much smaller acquisition.
It is.
It's again. The problem with this one isn't necessarily money, but whether or not they see
worth
the value in doing it. Yeah. Which, I mean, I agree with you, Tim. There definitely is some, and I think that there is a mutual a beneficial partnership to be had if they were able to team up with somebody bigger. I mean, in your specific instance, Microsoft and Playground Games. But yeah, like I don't see it completely out of the realm of possibility, but again, I don't see it necessarily.
Right. Like I said, it was just
something. Oh yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not something I see happening in the near future. And again, like I would imagine they could probably get that for
a few million.
Maybe a few million, maybe tens of 20s of millions or something like that. But it definitely wouldn't be like some.
No, I mean the cost of the game is like $26, and then each state they release is $12. So they're not a really. I mean, like they definitely hit like Steam's top list of when they sell DLC or most popular games, but they're not, a multi-million-dollar, multi-billion-dollar company.
Right.
We're going to the realm of like, hopes and dreams. I guess mine would have to be that.
Who do you want Ubisoft to acquire?
The fact that you know me is, not surprised. Yeah, exactly. Microsoft to acquire Ubisoft, and the only reason why I more strive for that being like
because you're an Xbox fanboy and you love Ubisoft.
It's no, I mean, like when you look at the acquisition of Activision and you look at the potential, and you look at the potential like plus to it is like the fact that they kind of like might have Call of Duty not be such a yearly release thing, right?
Right.
I would hope for that type of love and care to hit, which is my favorite games, or even all the Ubisoft games, because they have so many studios with so many developers that have so much talent, and have proven that there is a lot of talent in a lot of the past Assassin's Creed games, even all the Splinter Cell games, even prior games to that, like Prince of Persia and all that stuff. There is untapped talent in there, but they are also have fallen, the entire Ubisoft just company in general, with every developer within that company, has fallen victim to yearly release schedules, or just staying too comfortable on the same idea, or making most of their games kind of like mirror images of other games that they're currently popular, like with Brendan's fears for a lot of games that come out, even like this rumored Splinter Cell, is the fear of that they're so known for taking the success and build of a game and mirroring it into another game, just basically like a copy and paste. And
Ubisoft makes Ubisoft games.
Yes, and it's rinse and repeat games basically is what they realistically turned into these days. And for the sake of the acquisition, and my hopes and dreams would be to knock that shit off and to actually put some love and care back into these games, especially like me and Brendan were talking earlier. When it comes to Assassin's Creed games, they haven't had a decent story in a long time because they're so, just cut and dry. Like, here's this one game. Hey, here's this character. Okay, goodbye character. Here's this character next year. It's more so of like just wanting them to get that passion back, I guess, to kind of like get that kick in the ass to have, you know.
I mean, I get where you're coming from. That one, I mean, it could still totally happen. Ubisoft is only valued at $7.5 billion, which is a pittance compared to what they paid for Activision. The only reason I don't really see it happening is because Ubisoft fought over being acquired a couple years ago from Vivendi. Granted, that was a bit more of a hostile takeover, and they had to take some measures so that they didn't lose their stock and their power and all that stuff. And they successfully fought him off, so it would seem weird to fight that off and then get bought out, but I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, Xbox is known as, more now these days as the Western RPG space.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing. Like, them buying Ubisoft, I mean, this is going to make me sound like I hate Ubisoft, but really doesn't get them a whole lot of stuff that they don't already have. Like, Ubisoft really just has a lot of games that they already have. I mean, like, there's not a lot of, if they want open world RPGs and stuff, like, they just bought Bethesda. Like, so they have Elder Scrolls, they have Fallout, they have
not to mention they have Playground Games fiddling in the RPG space, so yeah.
Yeah, like, I just don't, again, it could still totally happen, and Microsoft getting it would maybe dust off some of those old IPs that Ubisoft has thrown by the wayside or forgotten about. Because that was one of their big things when they got Activision, is all that back catalog that has just been forgotten about and just not been utilized because Activision was so gung-ho on Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, even so, like, I would say that the foundation that this episode's built off of is even still Sony and Microsoft had said they're not done.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't see that
with acquisitions, I should say.
I don't see that changing anytime soon. Anyway, just again, like this whole content war that, I mean, really everybody is in. Anybody in any type of entertainment is in. If you see some value and profit in something, like, and you can afford to, you should probably buy it while you can to try and increase your share of being that entertainment pie. We'll see, and it's within the realm of possibility, because again, Ubisoft is only valued at $7.5 billion, which is again nothing compared to what they've already paid for some stuff. So I mean, in my opinion, I hate to continue on the Microsoft train here, but Microsoft's real big, the missing piece, let's say, of Microsoft's buffet, we're sticking with that metaphor, they don't have a lot of Japanese studios or a lot of Japanese talent. Been a huge detriment to them with all the like staggered Final Fantasy releases that don't come to Xbox. They've done a great job lately of bringing a lot of that stuff retroactively to Xbox. But yeah, there's like tons of like niche JRPG games and stuff that come out on Sony's console and do relatively well that Microsoft doesn't have. It'd be difficult because Japanese law specifically prohibits outside companies buying Japanese founded companies. But like they could really use a real Japanese company in one way or another, whether that's just one studio like Platinum Games talked about being a bit more open, being acquired if they were still their creative freedom, or buying somebody bigger like Square Enix or Namco Bandai or Capcom. Again, all of which are more or less in the realm of possibility. Like Capcom's only worth about $5 billion, Square Enix is worth about $6 billion. Namco Bandai is around like the 17, 18 billion mark. And again, especially if they bought some of those bigger studios, or even bought like Sega. Sega's worth like $5 billion, I think. I think it would really help them flesh out again, like one of the biggest holes in Microsoft's game.
It's something that Sony's always had that Microsoft has never really.
Well, it's because they've had it. I mean, they have a tight relationship with. I mean, because they're a Japanese company, so they have tight relationships with a lot of the Japanese studios and developers and stuff like that. So I mean, it makes sense. And Microsoft has always struggled in Japan. I think I saw the other day, Xbox has sold. Oh God, what was it? I think Xbox in total has sold only about 2 million units in Japan. And now, if you think I mean like the original Xbox, no. I am talking all versions of Xbox from the original Xbox to the current Series X have sold only about 2 million units in Japan.
Wow.
Well, isn't Japan's market is based more favored to mobile gaming, which is, I think,
Well,
isn't it
it
Nintendo
is
there that
now.
kills it?
I mean, it is now.
It is
Japanese
now.
is a huge mobile gaming market, which is why console sales have died off in Japan. Except for the Switch. The Switch is still doing incredibly well in Japan.
Yeah.
But I mean, second best behind that is definitely like the PlayStation, 4 and 5. But yeah, like so
Yeah.
the original Xbox, the 360, the Xbox One, and the Series X/S, like they've only sold like less than 2 million units total across that many console generations. And the best selling of them all was the Xbox 360. So it isn't even like their newer consoles that have really done well for them. It's been the older ones.
That gives me that also, that other slight pipe dream. I mean, it almost kind of like you would think this would be a possibility is maybe we would see some more cooperation between Microsoft and Sony with all these crazy acquisitions they're doing that kind of also affect their sales. That you would maybe see some more cooperation between both parties' studios. Who
I
knows?
mean, maybe, but that again doesn't seem likely. Sony does not like to play
Yeah.
ball uh for that stuff. Like they
I
are
mean,
very
to put it
exclusive.
lightly, they were against crossplay.
Well, to be fair to them, they were against crossplay because they were dominating the market. Like, why should they allow crossplay when most people are already on a PlayStation? Like, at that point, it's kind of a dirty move, but like I get it from a business perspective. Um, and I mean, it's something they're still having problems with today, despite a lot of their fans clamoring for it and it being a bit more of an open thing across gaming now.
Yeah,
But
well, I mean, all these moves Xbox has made for the pro player aspect is really, really given the PlayStation community a voice in what they want.
well, I mean, it's just gamers in general. Like, you should be able
Yeah,
to, as long as a game is multi-platform and uh, it's from a big enough studio. Like, I don't expect a game being made by one guy to be able to go
yeah,
cross-platform. Um, But like if the studio's big enough and the developer's big enough and publisher and you put it on all consoles, like there's no reason that, especially with today's modern technology and stuff, there's no reason that I shouldn't be able to play with somebody on the Switch or the PlayStation or on PC or on an Xbox or whatever they're playing on. Like it doesn't matter. As long as the game is capable of doing it, it should be allowed to happen. And I mean, again, to be fair, the only reason that Xbox did all that is because of how hard they shot themselves into the foot at the beginning of the Xbox One.
yeah, yeah.
Like, they wouldn't have had to do any of that stuff if they literally hadn't dropped a giant medicine ball on their own feet for being just so goddamn stupid.
Who likes gaming? Let's make a DVD player. Like,
Like, I mean, it's a whole train wreck that we could go
I
into.
mean,
But I mean, and Phil Spencer said it repeatedly that he knows that the Japanese market is, well, one, a growing market for them because the Xbox is picking up some steam in Japan with Game Pass and stuff. But the problem is like they don't have a lot of like Japanese centric or like I mean, really Asian in general like favored games.
yeah.
On the flip side of that, like Sony really needs more.
Needs a heavy
Sony needs
hitter.
something.
And
I mean, they have heavy hitters. The problem is that especially with the last generation, they've gone so hard into single player experiences that the only multiplayer stuff that they really have is stuff from third parties,
Which
which is
is
why,
which is Call of Duty and why they that was such a big thing when Microsoft
yeah,
announced they were going for Activision.
so
yeah,
I meant heavy hitter in a sense of like a big acquisition that would, and the one that I'm kind of thinking of, Brendan, does fit what you mean by a multiplayer that's not a single player based game or a game
yeah.
Well,
developer.
what
So
what options do they relatively have? What would be a smart
so
move
the
for
one that
Sony?
I'm thinking of that I think would be a smart move in my opinion would be Take Two.
I mean, that could be a good one. I don't know if they would want to pay the
The
almost
price
20
tag would
billion it would take
is
to acquire. Yeah,
Yeah, they don't have that deep pockets to just throw it.
I mean,
But it,
to be fair, again, part of the reason we decided to have this discussion is because Sony did just recently acquire Bungie.
mm-hmm.
oh yeah, duh. Yeah,
So I mean, that is a step in the right direction for them. But I mean, Bungie also stated that a lot of their stuff is still going to be multi-platform,
As was
And
a part of the deal, yeah.
yeah, so they're just going to be kind of operating as like a weird pseudo third party studio. Um, so like everything they
Yeah.
make will still be published under the Sony banner, but in theory, like they'll still be able to do stuff multi-platform for PC and
Yeah.
Xbox. Um,
Which I'm sure there are a lot more little deals that are unbeknown to the public
oh yeah, and a
when it
lot of these
comes to the
acquisitions.
deal between Bungie and
I mean, yeah, a lot of
Sony.
these acquisitions take time, and there's a lot of stuff that we don't get to see, um, because those documents and stuff are like private, and they will tell us what they want to tell us.
Yeah.
The problem is that a lot of multiplayer focused shooter stuff is under the big AAA banners, so like Sony would have to fork out something to get them because there's very few like shooters and stuff out there or multiplayer focused games that are not already owned by somebody else.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
since you could say the most unrealistic purchase would be Sony buying EA.
they would never fork over that money.
No, they wouldn't, but they have some shooters under there.
I mean, kind of. EA is a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
And I mean, EA is valued at like 38, 39 billion dollars, and Sony purchased Bungie for about 3 million or 3 billion, sorry. And I don't see them going much higher than that to make any other acquisitions. Sony has made a lot of smaller acquisitions within the last few years, like studios that they've had close ties with. And it's stuff to help them kind of on the back end of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from Bungie, I mean, they acquired Insomniac a few years ago, and they recently acquired Bluepoint because Bluepoint remade Shadow of the Colossus for them and the Demon Souls remake that came out on PS5. So they've acquired them, but again, a lot of that stuff is, I mean, Insomniac was basically a given. I mean, Insomniac has had a tight partnership with Sony since forever, and then yeah, Bluepoint had a tight relationship with them because they remade a couple of those games, and Sony really liked how they turned out. They've acquired a few other smaller studios and other tech areas. I forget the name of the studio off the top of my head, but they acquired some people that were specifically there to help them port their stuff over to PC. Like we've been seeing them doing the past few years with, the 2018 God of War going over to Steam, PC, and Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy and Horizon Zero Dawn. So I think they acquired that company to try and speed that process up because they've been seeing big numbers coming off of Steam because of that. So like it's Sony's making some smaller acquisitions to try and help that back end. I don't know outside of Bungie, I don't know how much more they're willing to drop because again they got Bungie for about 3 billion and that didn't even get Bungie exclusively like
No, I mean, and respectfully, they are a big company, but they're not able to drop what Microsoft's able to drop.
well yeah all of Sony is valued at about 156 billion.
And yeah,
Microsoft is valued at over 2 trillion with a T,
yeah,
TR. Like that's
and most of those studios that are not acquired at the moment are worth a lot.
well, yeah, a lot of the big. I mean, there's still plenty of little guys out there.
Yeah.
You
How much
know,
is CD Projekt Red valued?
about 5 billion currently. They were worth more before Cyberpunk kind of
Yeah.
punched them in the gut. But it's been climbing since, especially now that Cyberpunk's doing better and is in a
Hey,
better place.
maybe even more so after the Witcher
I mean,
announcement.
it'll naturally see a spike because of a big game announcement like that.
Yeah.
That stuff always happens. I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility, but CD Projekt Red has also fiercely remained independent.
Which,
They talk.
hey, oh, sorry, go ahead.
They talk about doing stuff their way and making the games they want to, being themselves and not needing to be beholden to higher power, so to speak.
Which I wholeheartedly support that there needs to be, or there needs to remain more independent studios to keep the multi-platform genre alive, just because this exclusivity thing can get dirty, as you've seen, is like Sony's has been Sony's game for ages, is that dirty ball they play with exclusivity and stuff like that, or just gatekeep deals and stuff like that. I think it's healthy business to make sure also that the monopoly thing is definitely not a thing, and that a lot of companies do keep their independence and stay third party.
And I mean, I think a lot of them will. Like, I mean, some of these, like Square Enix and like Namco Bandai in particular, have a lot of outside interests that are not video games. Like Namco Bandai has an entire like TV division and setup, and Square Enix has like a manga publishing arm, like Japanese comic books and stuff like that. So there's whole sides of other business that some of these companies have,
Yeah.
that would make it harder for them to be acquired. Because that's the thing, like Activision, the Activision Blizzard King partnership, like that's all they really did was video games. Like that's an easy get because it's just like, oh, now we have more video games. But trying to acquire certain other studios might tangle the web a bit because then if you buy the whole company, like you have to buy that stuff too,
Yeah.
even if you don't want it. And I mean, we're talking about a lot of the bigger ones. But there's other stuff going around too. Like there's a Chinese, well, two technically Chinese companies that have been slowly but surely throwing a lot of money around in the gaming space. Tencent and NetEase. Like Tencent owns like 40% of Epic Games, I think. They own all of Riot Games, the people who make League of Legends.
It's funny. I never had heard of them until now.
That's the point. They don't want you to know who they are. They're literally just like a Chinese investment firm. They just have a shitload of money, and they just are like quietly investing into these companies that are making money, in these game companies. I mean, Bungie, before Sony bought them out, was getting money from Tencent, and they like Tencent. Like I literally can't list all the things that they've invested in. And the same goes for NetEase. They've both just thrown so much money, kind of without outright buying stuff. Just
Such as the
investing.
investors that you hear. When you hear those, like the investors, I would imagine that's what they're referring to.
Well, some of them, yes. But yeah, but like they've been quietly investing in, without outright buying, they've been quietly investing in games and studios and other bigger publishers, and stuff like that to get a foothold, and it's working. Like, I mean, and that's the other thing is, for more or less, they don't seem to, since they're not outright buying stuff, like they can flex their muscle a bit and try to get a company to do one thing, but like they, for the most part, are very hands off. Like, you guys are already making money. Like, we don't need to get in the way of that. Here's some more money. Just keep doing what you're doing.
I mean, like if you even look at like the cooperation with what Nintendo's, what I'm trying to say, I'm like mixing up the words in my head. The cooperation with Nintendo and Microsoft, I'm not sure if there's any forefront between them and PlayStation, but seeing a lot of Xbox games coming Nintendo, and even seeing the cooperation of that. I mean, I think that's also another bag that needs to be played with more, honestly, because Nintendo has amazing games split across their history.
I mean, Nintendo has the best back catalog of any game company, period. Like, that's just a fact. I don't think you can even refute that, honestly.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but like, and Microsoft put some of their stuff onto the Switch, which is a nice partnership. Obviously, I mean, like Minecraft is on there, but they also put Ori and the Blind Forest and Ori and the Will of the Wisps on there. Cuphead eventually came to Switch. They put some of their smaller titles on there, and it was also that early partnership was one of the first real iterations of cross-platform play. I mean, Minecraft being the big one. The fact that you can pretty much play Minecraft on anything with anyone, across devices is a big deal. And I mean,
Yeah.
Nintendo's also notoriously insular. You buy a Nintendo console to play Nintendo games. I mean, I've done it. I still do it. I mean, I have a Switch. I have
It
it so I can
is
play those
it
games.
Yeah, it is the most old school experience that just hits home. I mean, yeah, you got Microsoft, you got Sony, but like Nintendo is Nintendo. That is, I mean, ranging from like Mario Kart, Mario Party is like the foundation of like family gaming.
I mean,
You know,
it's a market they've held for a long time. I mean, that's why there's a lot of knockoffs of Nintendo games, like like Crash Team Racing. Crash Team Racing is just a Mario Kart knockoff. There's been numerous Mario Party ripoffs.
Underrated Donkey Kong Racing. I actually
Diddy Kong Racing.
Diddy
Uh,
Kong Racing was that the one on the Nintendo 64? I can't remember.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, loved that one.
They honestly don't really need a lot of acquisitions. I mean,
No,
they have. I mean, they're a Japanese company, so they have a good relationship with a lot of the Japanese developers and publishers and stuff like that. So a lot of stuff that can go onto the Switch will go onto the Switch, especially now because the Switch is outselling the PlayStation and the Xbox by a country mile in Japan. Like
yeah,
Japanese, I mean, we mentioned it before. The Japanese love mobile gaming, and then the Switch is the perfect marriage of mobile gaming and a console. So they're getting a lot of stuff, and then plus with their online subscription, you can get a fair amount of their back catalog. And Nintendo doesn't really throw their money around. Like they haven't really bought anybody in a long time.
And they don't need to stay competitive either, though.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is they really don't like, and especially with all the good partnerships and stuff they have. Like it's been happening more. If you've paid attention, it's been happening more over the years. Like they have a good relationship with Namco, Namco Bandai. Like Namco Bandai helped develop like the Super Smash Brothers games. It's helped develop a couple of the Mario sports games, and Nintendo's been lending.
Nintendo is that guy who comes into the room and everybody's like, "Hey!" and everybody just loves him. You know?
I mean, kind of,
Yeah,
but I mean, they've been also lending out their licenses to other developers to make unique experiences off their games. Like that's how we got like Hyrule Warriors. That's how we got again like some of the Mario sports games is because they let other developers kind of like try and play around with some of the formula and stuff. So I mean, again, Nintendo might make some more deals down the road just to be like, hey, like you guys want to try and make some crazy new game. And I mean, like I would say the most recent thing that they did was what they did to get Bayonetta to make that a Nintendo exclusive. Which
yeah.
again, it's not like they bought it. Like Sega still technically owns the rights, and they are like licensing it through Sega exclusively to make it, a Nintendo exclusive.
You know,
But like they didn't buy Sega, they didn't buy Platinum Games, or they didn't, buy the rights to Bayonetta. They just made a deal.
like with Nintendo and the way it works. I mean, they've managed to wholesomely like almost keep their games so original, but then just sporadically throughout the years, kind of upgrade them into like more like I guess God, what's the best word for it? More known ways in what games are doing currently with more open world stuff, seeing them kind of more jump into the niche areas, but it's not something they do often. It's like a slow process that they just kind of like do their thing, and then all of a sudden they'll just do something out of left field, and it always works.
Well, not always, but Nintendo very much tends to take its time. They'll release games when they're ready or when they feel it's time for another one. Like that's why we only get a Zelda, a new fully 3D Legend of Zelda like every 5 or so years. Like you get a Legend of Zelda, you know, probably on average probably once a console generation, twice if you're lucky. The same thing with like the Super Mario, like 3D Mario games. You pretty much get one of those a generation, maybe two. Same
Yeah,
with
same with
Mario
Mario Kart.
Mario Kart. Mario Party is a bit different, but like they tend not to force or rush out games, which is part of the reason why they don't need to acquire anybody is because they have a lot of these established games and franchises and stuff that they can bring back or even
Yeah,
now re-release on their online service. But yeah, like I don't see Nintendo buying anybody aside from again maybe making some more deals to lend out their licenses or again maybe have a developer make a game exclusively for them for a time, but like nothing, again, they're not going to drop like $5 billion to buy somebody because they don't need to. They really don't have. There really isn't a hole in their game that they really need filled. I mean, you could maybe argue like a real multiplayer shooter or something like that, but like, I mean, Overwatch runs on the Switch. Like they got it to work on there somehow.
Yeah.
So
They like I don't see them buying anybody.
yeah, it doesn't make sense for them to either.
Yeah, I mean Nintendo is. I mean, it sounds simplistic and reductive to say like Nintendo is Nintendo and wants like Nintendo things and done things the Nintendo way, but like that's what it is, and they're not going to do anything that puts them outside of that. Like that is what they're going to do. They're going to be Nintendo and make games with that Nintendo DNA and that Nintendo thought process and all that jazz. They're not going to just, go buy somebody so they can fluff out their catalog or whatever.
It is. It's one of the most wholesome it's one of the most wholesome experiences in gaming that kind of runs through any gamer's DNA these days. Is
Are you guys there?
I'm here.
What happened to Josh?
I don't know.
So apparently Josh is having technical difficulties. Oh, okay, there you are, Josh. Glad you could join us again.
Oh, welcome back.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, man.
Gotta love technology, right?
It's my McDonald's tier laptop over here.
With your as we used to call it, your Walmart Wi-Fi.
Classic Walmart connection.
Yep. But anyways, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. We really appreciate you guys listening to us. I don't even know why I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let me back it up. Anyways, Brenden, what game are you playing this week?
As of right now, I finished Horizon Forbidden West after I think my in-game time was like 90 hours, somewhere around there. But I finished playing that, and I started playing the Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game that came out. I think it was like October of last year. Most of the way through that as of this recording. I'll definitely be done by the time we record our next episode, but that's currently what I'm playing. Josh, what are you playing?
Currently, I am playing Elden Ring. I got about 80 hours in, as would be about the time this episode drops. And a little bit of Destiny 2, but mainly Elden Ring, which, everybody knows why. It's amazing. What about you, Tim? What's been your go-to?
Again, I'm still stuck on the fact that I tried to wrap this up without doing, I think, my favorite part of the episode. You dropping us there, Josh, really threw me off. But I completely lost what I was doing, so my bad. No, I'm playing Elden Ring, Horizon Zero Dawn. Again, that's very slow. I honestly get like an hour to play, maybe. Or no, I carve out an hour once a week to play that game. I really need to put more time into it. And then simulators. Right now, maining Elden Ring and Horizon when I'm not being lazy. Yeah. So anyways, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Now we're going to go into the outro. We really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Remember, you can like, subscribe, follow, 5 stars, thumbs up, whatever you can do on whatever platform you can do. I did mention last time that we had a TikTok that has since been put on the back burner. We'll readdress that down the road. Like I said, when I get more free time. Anyways, we really appreciate it, and we hope to see you guys next time. Thanks.
Later, guys.
Thanks for listening.